This is DW News live from Berlin. A deadly train crash in northern India kills at least 96 people and the toll is likely to rise according to police. The incident happened in the early hours of Sunday morning when many passengers were asleep. Some are still trapped in the wreckage. We'll be speaking to our correspondent in Delhi. Also coming up, will she or won't she? German Chancellor Angela Merkel is expected to announce today if she'll stand for a fourth term as Chancellor. We'll get all the details from our political correspondent. I'm Anne O'Donnell. Welcome. We start in India, where at least 96 people have died and dozens more are injured after a passenger train derailed in the northern state of Uttar Pradesh. The packed train was travelling between the northeastern city Patna and central city of Indore. As it passed through the village of Pukrayan, over a dozen carriages suddenly rolled off the tracks. Rescue services are scrambling to find survivors still trapped in the overturned coaches. It's feared the death toll could rise considerably. It's not immediately clear what caused the derailment. Well, our correspondent Sonia Falnikar is on that story for us, and she joins us now from the Indian capital, Delhi. Sonia, what is the latest from the accident site? How are emergency services coping at the moment?
Well, the rescue operation is still on. We're seeing footage of, rescue workers using heavy machinery, trying to cut through the twisted metal to pull out trapped passengers. Now, India's National Disaster Response Force is overseeing the rescue efforts, and a team of army personnel and doctors have joined the rescue workers on the ground. Many anxious relatives have gathered at the station in Indore. That's where the train began its journey. Many survivors have been moved to a nearby town so they can leave by trains or buses. And we have to remember that Kanpur, which is about 100 kilometers away from the site, is a major railway junction. Hundreds of trains pass through it every day. And Prime Minister Narendra Modi has tweeted, that he's anguished beyond words. The Railways Minister Suresh Prabhu has ordered an investigation into the crash.
So they've ordered an investigation into the crash. Do they have any idea what caused the train to actually derail?
Well, we don't know the exact cause of the accident as yet. Top railway officials are blaming a fault in the tracks. But unfortunately, train accidents are fairly common in India. Much of the railway equipment here is out of date. It dates back to colonial times. Last year in March, we had a similar accident in the same northern state of Uttar Pradesh, which killed nearly 40 people. Now, experts say, decades of neglect, low investment, highly subsidized fares have left the network in shambles. And successive governments really haven't, modernized the network. They've instead used the system to provide cheap transport and jobs. And this lack of investment has really meant, slower services and more accidents.
So an out-of-date network and not enough money coming into it. What is the government actually doing to improve India's poor rail safety record?
Well, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has said that, revamping the railways is a priority for the government. He wants to spend billions of dollars over the next 5 years on new tracks, on building modern bullet trains and stations. The Railways Minister has promised to make the railways safer, build more lines, increase the speed of journeys. But I think it will be a long time before we really see a tangible improvement in India's vast rail network. It's huge, it's extensive. It's the fourth largest in the world. It carries some 23 million people daily on its congested tracks.
Sonia Falnikar in Delhi, thank you very much for that. German Chancellor Angela Merkel is expected to announce today whether she's going to run for a fourth term in next year's general election. Her party's executive committee meets this afternoon and a statement is expected by this evening. Merkel hasn't confirmed whether she'll run again, but many analysts expect her to. Her possible candidacy was a topic of conversation when President Obama visited Berlin earlier this week. Obama praised Merkel and indicated she would get his support if he could vote in Germany. Well, for more on the story now, our political correspondent Fabian von der Mark joins us in studio. Fabian, you have the inside track. The executive committee of the CDU meets later today. What are her party colleagues saying to you?
Well, when you talk to them in the background, there are hardly any doubts that she will announce to run a fourth time. Publicly, almost all leading party figures have also encouraged her to do that. And some of them have even expressed the certainty that she will announce that. And so no big doubts really.
So she's just letting her inner circle know first, essentially. Now, the CDU's foreign policy specialist, Norbert Röttgen, has already said that Merkel will run for another term. Is there any way that she could back out at this stage?
Well, she could always say enough is enough and democracy is about change. But no, I mean, there's no real scenario for that. And when you have a look at a recent poll, for example, not only those encouragements within her party, but also the voters, those in favor of the Conservatives, 92% would want to see her again as the party leader and the candidate for chancellor. And even without those voters in the whole of Germany, 55% still are in favor of Merkel running for another term. So she has the momentum now to say, everyone wants me to do that, so I will do it.
She's striking while the iron is hot, but how smart is it of her party to choose someone who seems to be tired of her job? At least some observers are claiming that.
Well, it is true that the party doesn't really have an exit strategy for Merkel. Not now, not in 2 years, not in 4 years. There's no real natural successor, for example, that should come after Merkel. So it is for them difficult really to say, how can we get out of this? And she is still quite popular. Plus, the party would always argue the challenges within the country and internationally are so big at the moment. Internationally, when you look at Trump, Brexit, Ukraine, Syria, so many difficult topics really where she is at the moment capable of dealing with them because she's knowing what it's about. And also nationally, the refugee crisis still not entirely handled, and she has started that. So people also want her to continue working on that until it's done.
There's definitely a rise of populist movements across Europe, and also here in Germany, the political climate has changed a lot. The anti-migrant party, the AfD, has had a lot of success in state elections. Obviously, people are looking for change. Can Merkel actually give them that change?
Well, I'm sure that with the announcement today, there will also be a program that the party is talking about today, where there are quite a number of positions that are rather in favor of those people that have voted for AfD lately. But it is true, AfD is a strong concern within Germany, also for the Christian Democratic Party. And it's also true that Merkel is the person that is sort of the symbol of everything that goes wrong in the eyes of the voters of AfD. So for them, Merkel is the perfect figure to mobilize in the next elections.
They're looking for stability in any case. Fabian von der Mark, thank you very much for joining us in studio.
Welcome.
French voters are casting ballots in a primary for a centre-right candidate in next year's presidential election. It's the first of 2 rounds of voting to determine the Republican Party's nominee. The frontrunners include former President Nicolas Sarkozy, but surveys suggest a tight race between him and 2 of the Conservatives. Today's vote is not limited to Republican Party members. The top 2 candidates will face each other in another primary poll next week. Millions of Indians are having to queue outside banks and ATMs to exchange cash that is not valid anymore. That's after the government demonetised 2 currency notes that make up the bulk of the cash in circulation. The government says it is meant to crack down on the illegal economy. But the move has had a severe impact on people's daily lives and also on small businesses.
Every day, Delhiites in their thousands gather in front of banks, hoping to exchange their now useless banknotes. Each person is allowed to exchange a maximum of 2,000 rupees. That's about 28 euros per day. Many have been trying for several days, but the banks usually run out of new notes by midday. They did this to hurt us poor. We are facing so many problems. We have a wedding in the family. No one gave us any money.
I've been waiting for like more than 3-4 hours here just to take only, not more than 2,000. And, this is not a good policy from the government.
These notes are now worthless. Overnight, India's government declared all notes worth more than the equivalent of around 7 euros invalid. That's more than 85% of the banknotes in circulation. The aim was to crack down on untaxed income. Indians converting large sums will have to explain the source of their funds.
भ्रष्टाचार और काले
Corruption and tax evasion are the big challenges facing our country.
भ्रष्टाचार और काले धन के खिलाफ
Since we've been in government, we've already done a lot to combat them.
अनेक प्रभावी कदम उठाए.
The consequences for small businesses, too, are apparent. Since there aren't enough new notes to go around, people are short of cash. For Aman Singh, that means there aren't any customers visiting his clothes shop, despite the discounts on offer. No one's coming anymore, so I'm standing outside. No one wants to buy. Everyone's queuing outside the banks and ATMs. Some critics argue this campaign is more about burnishing the Prime Minister's anti-corruption credentials than about really making a difference to India's economy.
I don't believe that this move is going to have too much of an impact on the black economy at all. Firstly, because money that is got from illegal activities or unrecorded activities is not stored in the form of cash. Maximum 5 or 6%, all the studies have indicated, is in the form of cash. So you're attacking a very small part of that. But by attacking that very small part, you are meanwhile destroying livelihoods, destroying economic activity.
Real estate has long been a favored haven for India's illicit wealth, and things look set to stay that way just as long as there are enough new banknotes.
So sports news now, and Dortmund and Bayern clash in real-life Bundesliga on Saturday, but could they soon actually be meeting in virtual reality? Esports are on the rise, with the best gamers in the world already drawing big audiences. Wolfsburg recently became the first Bundesliga club to employ a professional gamer, and Schalke have followed suit. The two recently faced off before excited fans.
Wolfsburg versus Schalke, but not as we know it. In a fan zone by Wolfsburg Stadium, the club's eSports teams will battle it out on FIFA 17 to see who is top of the virtual league, complete with commentary. Schalke's defence looking good. A through ball. Oh, off the post! The players remain impassive, but Wolfsburg are in the ascendancy. Another cross, and it's a goal! 1-0 for Wolfsburg's Timo Siep, and that's how it finished. It was definitely cool. Everyone celebrated at 1-0. I had a great time, they had a great time. That's what FIFA does. It creates a connection to football. The competition is designed to bridge the gap between the online gaming world and real fans. And it's working. Kind of. I think it's good for young people, but I didn't have a clue what was going on and how it works. It's not for me. You celebrate when a goal is scored and there's lots of emotion involved, just like in real life. And I think that's why people will like it. Yeah, of course it can be part of the football club, but reality is something else entirely. That's what appeals to the masses. But virtual football seems destined to grow. Clubs like Bayern Munich and Borussia Mönchengladbach are apparently planning their own eSports teams with a view to competing eventually in a virtual Bundesliga. My dream is this. There are currently 2 Bundesliga teams that have a gamer under contract. In 1 or 2 years, I think there'll be 10, 11 or 12, and then you can set up some tournaments. Unlike real-life footballers, Timo Siep and his Schalke counterpart don't earn enough to live off, yet. But the e-sport is becoming ever more lucrative, especially now it has caught the attention of the Bundesliga giants.
And a reminder of the top story that we're following for you. A deadly train crash in the Indian state of Uttar Pradesh has killed at least 90 people, but the toll is likely to rise, according to police. The accident happened in the early hours of Sunday morning when many passengers were asleep. Some are still trapped in the wreckage. And a new crew has arrived at the International Space Station. The 3 astronauts from France, Russia and the US will be running the orbit outpost for the next 6 months. We'll leave you with those pictures from the moment the space travellers moved into their new home. Stay with us for more. Up next is DW's football coverage, the Bundesliga.